Hello, everyone. This is AUR. I'm sorry if I've been offline for a lot of days and it's been months, but yeah, I'm back. And today I'm going to show you how to do melodic dubstep in the big 2026. Now, melodic dubstep has been a genre that's been here for like a decade or so at this moment. And it was called initially love step, which was like the old NCS kind of style with stuff from Electrolyte and some other similar artists. And if you go into the earliest NCS days with melodic dubstep, that's basically love step. And then it grew into another future bassy kind of blend, which then got called melodic bass, which is the styles that you can refer to with artists like Elenium or Fairlane or some other similar artists like Dabin as well. So that kind of got into a separate genre with melodic dubstep, but with future bass or trap drums. But like the vibe kind of remained the same with the core processing and everything, with the saw stacks and everything. And then melodic dubstep kind of evolved into these new styles of genres that everyone does differently. So, for example, there are a lot of big artists in melodic dubstep scenes. Like initially, the melodic dubstep that we have today started from people like Seven Lions with his releases in the earliest 2010 days, and not specifically in 2010, but like in the early 2010s, the years. So it started from that, and then it's kept evolving into love step and these other kinds of styles and the melodic bass and everything. And now we have specific artists that do it very differently. So there's no one way to look at melodic dubstep in 2026, because there's a lot of artists that do it differently, but you may feel like they do it in the same way. Like, for example, there's artists like Dark Cloud and Light and Soar. They do this very lushy and airy kind of dubstep, and I also consider Matrix, or nowadays known as Ethan Rash, into the same category. And then there's people like Abandoned, who have their own kind of style of dubstep, which is like very much epic and cinematic and really focuses on uh, very much like big leads and big atmospheres and sounds, instead of just going for that airy approach where you feel like lush saws and everything. And for Abandoned style, you get more of a blend of a very atmospheric leads, but with a very mid bass heavy kind of dubstep vibe. And then there's people like Modus and AU5 who do this kind of a very strict and very mid bass focusy as well, but you could also feel like their thought stacks are really compressed and really not that out there with the atmosphere and everything, and they're like really centered, for some good words that I can find. And these center saws sound more heavier than the ones that are done in like the Abandoned style or the Dark Cloud style or the Soar style and some other styles. And then there's another style which is done by artists like Last Heroes or Two Worlds Apart, or which I think was known as Ben Walter before. And then there's Dematis and other artists like Aaron Shirk, who also have this other style of melodic dubstep, which has a lot of focus on like lush saws, but also more so focus on the lead sounds. So they really focus on their leads carrying their drops a lot. And I guess Jason Ross and Trivecta are also the artists that do these kind of things that last year or some other artists do. So there's like no one way to look at melodic dubstep, and the way I do melodic dubstep is actually quite different from all of these artists. But it kind of sounds similar with like a blend of AU5 and Soar. I wanted to go for the Soar style, but I ended up going for a blend of Soar and AU5 and Abandoned style. And also sometimes I do kind of sound like Aaron Shirk or Last Heroes with my lead approach and everything. But it's different each time, and there's no one way to look at melodic dubstep. So I'm going to explain how I do melodic dubstep and how you can evolve your own style from melodic dubstep, the way you do things, the way you process things. So there's no one way of processing things, and each artist does it differently. So you don't have to sound like a specific artist. But I have learned from a lot of artists, and I have met a lot of artists, and that's how I kept evolving my style of melodic dubstep and where I am today. So I'm going to go through each layer and going to show you how it's done and why it's done. So first of all, let's just look at our saw stack. So this is basically just a saw patch. Let's disable the processing on it. So I'm going to go here, and this is my saw bus, which I'm going to explain what processing I have and why do I have all these processings. And it's going into the hardcore chain, which is just a side chain thingy, and I'm using it here just as a filter, and then it's going into my sidechain bus. So I'm gonna leave the sidechain processing on, but gonna filter out or turn off all the other processings. So these are my initial saws, and I'm gonna play them, and they sound something like this. I'm gonna mute my mic when I play these. And now let's look at my other saws layer, which is actually a stack of saws from 5 different vital instances. So let me go into here. Okay, these are the 5 saw instances that I have from Vital, and I'm gonna play each one so you know how they sound like. Let's play the first one. So a lot of these layers actually work differently. Some have mid presence, some have really white noise-ish kind of presence, and some add this melodic texture and everything. And you can go for any saws, any kind of sound that you like. You maybe can go for square saws, like square and a saw wavetable woven into one preset, and then go for that. Or you can specifically go for saws, or you can go for only square wave kind of chords, and you can do that as well. So there's no one specific approach to these things. And now let's go to pattern one, which is just a serum patch, and that main saw that I showed you. It's a preset from another pack that I have. I really love this sound, so I'm gonna play this and let's see how it sounds like. Yeah, as you can hear, it's really uh, airy and rich with that high end presence. So I really wanted to focus on this saw alone, but I also wanted to add in some more texture, so I went for these saws as well. I'm gonna play these as well right now as a whole. There's probably no processing going on these ones. Let me just check if my mic. Okay, so my mic is not muted. So yeah, there's absolutely no processing going on. Just a little bit of boost in here in the high mids or the high end, and that's pretty much it. For the other saws as well, I think, yeah, there's no processing. So this is that. But one of the main things that I do with my melodic dubstep songs and everything is adding a lot of atmosphere sounds. And I make these atmosphere sounds myself in Quanta. So I have this patch right here. Let me turn down the processing. So it's basically just a granulizer. And then there's this one as well. It's just a vocal uh, granulized, and the other one is just a simple melodic loop that is granulized from a sample pack called Polychrome by Oversampled. So I use these, and then I process them with. Let me show you. So I process them with. Where's my number six? It's going into this one. Okay, I think I have routed this to the wrong channel because this should be going into 7, not 6. So this goes into 7 and this goes into 7, and that's fixed. Okay, so I have a decapitator. Yeah, I have a decapitator is basically just a saturation plugin which I'm using on the saw bus as well. And then I have a fruity convolver with this blur pink preset, this one. And I have set the mix to around 66%, and then Valhalla Shimmer with mix all the way up and the size to 70, and big stereo with a pitch mode to dual and color mode to dark. And I just played with a low cut and high cut a little bit. And then there's a high pass EQ and Edison for recording the sound when I'm playing with the note right here. So just individual note, and it starts recording everything like this. You see, it's kind of complicated, but also simple at the same time. So that's my atmospheric processing. And what I do is I record two instances or three instances of these sounds. So basically playing one octave, then another octave, then a third octave. And sometimes when I don't want to go for a third octave of the sample, I just place two octaves there and just play around with two of them. So one of them sounds like this, and the other one sounds like this. This is coming from the same sample. And then there's a vocal one, and this, and another one for the vocal one. Yeah, and another one. So the vocals are also three octaves here, and the other sample is also three octaves here. So overall, these sound something like these. And the processing that I'm doing is basically just having the volume down a little bit for these, and I'm also adjusting the volume here as well for these. As you can see, some are boosted by a few dB, and some are really much boosted, and then I'm dragging the volume down. And the reason I boosted these here is to just make them feel like a whole thing instead of individual things, so these all sound the same kind of thing. And then I have these volume down here so they do not contradict the the melodic content or the resonances or anything you want to call it with the saw stacks. So they're like in unison or in harmony with the card stacks when I bring the processing volume down for these, and the other one as well a little bit. And all I'm doing right here is just having a high cut and then a high boost. I'm boosting this one again, maybe it was too low of a volume, and then doing the same here again, just a little boost and then a high pass. And then it's going into my sawbus. So what I have in my sawbus is basically just a high cut to get rid of the low end, And this is where things go unique because most melodic dubstep tutorials that I've seen, the tips that I've been given, and all of that stuff, no one has ever used Soothe 2 in their productions. And the way I do it is actually unique, I think. So, what I have is Soothe 2 on a hard mode and the depth at around 1.9, sharpness at 6.2, and selectivity at 0, and the attack at 1, and the release really, really, really fast. And that's pretty much it. And I have turned it into the flat start preset, and I have boosted this area because at around 7K I wanted for some frequencies that are really harsh in my saws to be cut down even more. So this is basically just taming the whole spectrum of the frequencies. And by hard mode, it's actually getting rid of a lot of the resonances or like the melodic content of the saws and the atmospheres combined, leaving only the airy nature of the saws and the atmosphere behind for me to hear or for all of you to hear. So it's really just removing all the melodic kind of essence of the saw stack and leaving out just the lush and airy kind of saw stacks and atmospheres behind. Then they get processed with this preset called High Crispy Mix inside Decapitator. It's a really cool plugin, and I really love this preset. It saturates the saws a little bit, and you can use any other distortion or saturation plugin as well, but I really like the sound of this one. And then there's Fresh Air to bring out more of the high end airy and um, this fresh kind of sound into my saws and my atmospheres. So the 57% for mid air and 32% for high air. So it's not much, but it's doing a lot of work. And then I have Fruity Reverb 2 with this much wetness, like 94% wetness. The decay is around 5 seconds, and the size is all the way up, the difference all the way up, and then a high cut and low cut, and that's pretty much it that I did with this. So it's giving it this reverby feel, or like making it more stereo in the feel and everything, and making it feel like a saw stack in a melodic dubstep track because you need that kind of reverby and really atmospheric approach to your saws. But like it's just my opinion, and that's just how I do it. And then an EQ to high cut all the frequencies, and then it's going to another bus where I have KHS stereo, and I'm just boosting the width by 10%, so it's a little bit more stereo. And then I have a EQ right here with these settings, so it's just taming down a little bit of the 1600 hertz frequencies, and then a little cut on the 7K frequency, and then boosting a little bit of the 9900 hertz, just a little bit, and then another EQ to get rid of all the low end information and just leave out the information that is like above 380 hertz or so to like 20K hertz or 18K hertz, whatever you want to call it. And then it's going into this bus where I just have EQ for the filter later on, and nothing crazy is happening, and then into the sidechain bus. So let me turn on the processing one by one, and let's see what everything does. So I'm gonna turn these off, and then I'm gonna come here and turn these off as well, and let's see how the processing actually happens. Let's play it. And then I'm adding a little bit of white noise, which is coming through here, and also going into the sawbus processing. So the white noise is also getting processed with the stack itself. So there's also another fresh air to boost the high end and give it a lot more airiness to the white noise, and a very steep high cut with a lot of boost on the high end as well. And now let's play everything together in the saw stat and let's see how it sounds like. Alright, that's it for the saw stack. And now let's go into the basses. So I have three layers of basses. One is a sub, one is a mid bass, and one is a res. And I'll explain why I go for these. So let's look into the first one, which is a mid bass. Let's go into the processing. So this is a processing. Let me turn off the processing and let's play it. Okay, it sounds like this. Let's go into what is playing this mid bass. So it's a vital patch that I made myself. This is how the wavetable looks like. You can go for any wavetable that has like this reezy and grungy, like really a phasey kind of effect. I have some comb filter with this kind of uh, wavetable, some smearing going on, some unison, and some bend for the growly effect. And I have a multi-band compression and a lot of distortion going on here. And it's playing these notes. Okay, it's not playing these notes. Let's see. Because the side chain, of course. And now let's look into the processing of the things here. So I'm going to turn off these processings and let's turn it on one by one. So I'm not using the mid-side detune here because this is a kind of bass that doesn't need mid-side detune, which is just putting detune on the sides instead of the whole sound. And I made this preset, this bass preset for some other bass, but I just like the sound of it, so I had to turn off the mid-side detune and then turn everything on. So the first one is M Freeform Phase, which is like a disperser, but it's a free plugin and you can carve your own kind of stuff in here. The frequencies or the phase adjustment that you want to do. I just use a simple saw and with the depth at this much and extreme mode, and now it sounds like this. Without and with. And then I have some multi-band compression like OTT and some distortion. KHS distortion is a free plugin with a saturate drive on this, dynamics on this. It makes all the ways up, and then a high pass. And then it's going into this mixer channel where I have more distortion. So it's really making it really stand out in the mix. And then a little bit low pass in the high end. So it's not messing with the high end of the saws and everything else. And then I have another high shelf cut that is cutting a lot of the high frequencies to like 2.7K, and it's like 12 dB kind of cut. So it's taking away more of those high end frequencies that I don't really need, and I want the bass, the mid bass, to sound more like a mids thing and not a high end thing. But it's really my style, and some other artists really prefer their mid bass to be in the high end type of thing. And then it's going into the bass bus, which has some more saturation, and the reason there's a saturation is because I have also routed my sub bass and my res bass to this channel as well. So all of these basses are then getting saturated together to make them more cohesive. And now let's go into. Let me check my recording. Okay, the mic is on. Then let's go into the Reese bass. All right, this is a fun one. So I'm using a Reese bass from the artist called Dark Cloud from his sample pack. I really love this Reese. I haven't touched anything in this preset, and I just really love the sound of it. So it's going into mixer number 13, and let's hear it without the processing and then with the processing. All right, let's hear it. I'm gonna turn off this space processing as well. So let's hear the Reese. So the reason I use Reese basses like this is because I want this low mids to be kind of warm for my tracks. So there's a lot of width going on in my low mids and like low end, but also it's not going into the sub bass category because I'm doing some high pass filtering here as well, as you can see, and also in these plugins as well. So let's turn on all the plugins one by one. So first off, I'm doing a lot of distortion on it to make it more crunchy, and then I have a patcher where I have uh, mid-side stereo processing going on, so I'm getting rid of the low end from the sides and only letting through the low end in the mids. So basically just cutting off all the low end from the sides. And now it sounds like this. And then I have a high pass at around 99 hertz, and then another low pass at around 1K. So I'm getting rid of all the high end as well as all the low end, and now it sounds like this. So it's only focusing on the low mids and that region. And then it's going into this mixer channel, which has another high pass, I believe, and low pass. Yep. More control into the low mids. And then I have a fruity send for some reason. I think it's just to control the volume of this a free space coming into the second drop, which I did for like a hard wave kind of thing, where I have a 808, so I needed less of the respace and more of the 808, and that's why I have this fruity send where the dry signal of the respace is automated to go down a little bit in the volume, and it's going into the bass bus, which there is then getting distorted with our third layer, which is the sub bass. So the sub bass is pretty simple. It's just a 3x oscillator with no other oscillators on, just the first oscillator on with the sine wave, and it's going into mixer channel 15. I think it's playing on the first octave of the piano roll as well. And the processing going on is really harsh, as you can see. So the first processing here is in the form of the patcher, which I'm using a plugin called Erosion TTV 0.3, which is an emulation of the erosion effect from the Ableton Live inside FLs. Someone has made erosion into a VST3 plugin, I think, and I've downloaded this and I'm using that to actually give my sub bass this high end noise present, so it has this crunchy effect, and then I'm high passing the erosion effect so it's not affecting the low frequencies, and I'm letting the whole low frequencies and sub into the output as well. So there's like two parallel processes going on, which is one of them is just the low end, the sub going in, and the other one is the erosion effect with the high pass. So it's only affecting the high end of the sub bass, and it's adding this white noise effect. And then I'm distorting the low end with the white noise to make it crunchy, as you can hear. And then I'm using a EQ to then drag it down the high end to like just the low end, because when you process these things together, they kind of affect the low end as well. Like when you distort two sounds together, you actually make the high end or the other frequencies distorted into the low end as well a little bit. I don't know how the processing works, and I don't know why I did this, like the low cut and everything, but I'm pretty sure there must be a reason for it. And I'm also doing a lot of like uh, EQ stuff in here as well, like getting rid of all of the mids and high shelf on the high end. For some reason, I don't know, my brain works in weird ways. And I've set the sub to mono here, so it's just completely mono. And then I have the Fruity compressor with these settings to really compress the sub to stay consistent, and now it sounds like this. So it's really distorted kind of sub. And if we get rid of the compressor, it's not much distorted, but if we turn back on the compressor, really distorted, and that's what we want. And then this sub is going into the bass bus where there's distortion happening with the other three basses, like the Rees and the mid bass, and all of them sound together something like this. And that's pretty much it for my basses and everything. And then I have drums, a kick that I really love from Melodic Dubstep. You can go for any kick like Xylem kicks, Chime kicks, AU5 kicks, some other Melodic Dubstep artist kicks, or make your own. And then a Xylem snare, and then some top loops for the top end. Now, here's where my processings differ a little bit again with some from some other artists, but inspired by some other artists like Soar and Light and some other similar artists. And I'm sorry if my background noise is really loud now because the fan is now in full throttle mode. But yeah, here is some interesting things that I do with my melodic dubstep. So this pattern right here has two things playing. One is a silent pluck, which sounds like this. I'm gonna turn off the processing on this one so you can hear what it sounds like without any processing. That's pretty much it. And then I have FL keys with the grand piano 3 megabytes preset. And these are playing like a really top ish melody to give it this glistening kind of feel. So together they sound something like this. And with the processing, which is let me enable these. So Fruity Convolver with the pink blur preset on 84% mix, really making them ambient like, and then distortion to bring out the sound, and then endless smile to give it more air and more reverb, and then OTT to really bring out the sound more with compressing it down so it stays consistent. I'm not doing upward expansion because I don't want any more of the reverb coming from this than it already is. So I'm not doing any upward expansion. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just compressing the sound and not expanding the sound. And then I have a high pass, I believe, yeah, and some other EQs that I did, like some dips and boosts that I felt like they were necessary. And then I did another high pass in here as well, so there is no low end information. And together they sound something like this with all the processing. So yeah, really, really pretty and really atmospheric. And then the last patch is my main lead, which let's see is 3 layers of stuff. So let's break it down into whatever it is. I believe it's this one, I guess. Yeah, it's this one. So let's get rid of these two. I'm gonna disable the processing on this now. Okay, so we don't need further reverb and reverb 2. Got it. And then it's going into the hardcore chain. Okay, let's play the first sound. Let's look at the sound. It's Serum 2 AOR Chaos Lead. So it's a half sine and half saw wave table with effects, hyperdimension, some distortion, some delay going on, some multi-band compression, some reverb going on, some EQ going on with a high cut and everything, and some filter going on with a high cut and everything again. And that's pretty much it for the sound. So I think one other thing is the chaos. Chaos. Okay, so where is the chaos actually in Theorem 3? I think it's this one. Yeah, yeah, it's the Chaos Lawrence preset in this LFO9, and I think it's okay, LFO9 Chaos, which is going into the fine tune of oscillator A, which is this wavetable. So it's really going really fast, kind of chaos into the fine tuning of the sound, and this gives it this screechy kind of lead sound, and it sounds something like this. And I think this is like a lower octave layer of the same sound. Okay, no, I was wrong. There's just a solid, like a hard style harmony lead that I have, and there's some low cut filter going on, and then some delay, some reverb, some multi-band compression, and some high cut, some low cut again, and that's pretty much it. And there's a lot of unison going on this one. Yeah, there's a lot of processing going on, but yeah, the sound basically sounds like this. Very screechy kind of saw wave, and it's playing a really high octave. And then the third layer is okay. So this is like AU5 inspired wavetable, which is half saw and half square. And there's not much going on in here, but if we go into the FX section, there's just delay and some multi-band compression. And LFO1 is controlling a triangle LFO on the fine tune of the wavetable, so it's like giving it this vibrato kind of feeling, and it's really not fast. Yeah, it's just 52 hertz set to the hertz rate mode, and it's making it feel like a vibrato lead, like a really fast vibrato, and that's pretty much it. And altogether, these 3 leads sounds like. I had to adjust the volumes on these as well, so the first lead sounds really loud, the second one really low, and the third one just in the middle between the first and the second, or maybe um, like 30% of the second lead, and probably like 70% less than the first lead. So yeah, just for making them sound cohesive and consistent. And now let's turn on the processing. So the first one is an EQ, a little boost to the volume of the leads all together, and some dips and boosts in the high end, and then some distortion to make them really cohesive and like uh, make them feel like one, and also distort them so they take up a lot of space in the mix as well. And I'm setting the mix of distortion to around 60% because I don't want them to too much distorted. So I'm letting in some of that original sound of the lead in. And with distortion, they sound like this, really, really, really loud. And then I have a delay, which is a ping pong delay set on these settings with this much wetness. And then I have Valhalla Shimmer, which I'm using as a reverb with a mix on 35%, size 100%, and there's these settings with reverb mode to big stereo, pitch mode to dual, and color mode to dark, and then a low cut, and that's pretty much it. And now let's play it. Yeah, it's really, really, really loud. It's extremely loud, I'd say. And now, if we play it in the context of the whole song, it's gonna sound something like this. Okay, I forgot the sidechain, so I enabled the sidechain, and I don't think I have any other processing turned off. Okay, so the drums bus is basically just a two compressors in parallel that are going in. Uh, I think, yeah, I think they're in parallel because this one has a mix down to like 27%, and I think it's kind of a preset somewhere around here. I don't know which preset I used because it keeps going into the no preset mode. But yeah, these are the settings for this Panks plugin, which is I think now a free plugin, but it was a paid plugin before. And then I have the glue, which is a compressor, and the drum preset full parallel, which is like a parallel processing uh, um, a compression, and it's also set to like 40% wet, so not the whole signal is getting compressed, and just 40% of the signal is getting compressed. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the drums, and I'm boosting the drums by 2 dB, so the drums coming and cut through the mix even more, and all of these drums are routed to that one. So now let's play it with the sidechain on. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Melodic Dubstep in 2026. You can look at this video and learn from it and do melodic dubstep the way you want to do it. I did things my way because I kept learning from other artists, some friends, and really good artists, professional ones, as well as some other artists that were learning alongside me. So they also taught me a lot of things that they found really interesting, and some things that I did myself, like the soothe technique. The fresh air kind of technique, and some other stuff as well that I did, and also these very glistening sounds and all that, and yeah, a lot of other things as well. So I just kept practicing, I kept doing, I kept refining my own kind of melodic dubstep style again and again and again. And I'm not a professional at this point, and I still have a lot of ways to go to perfect this genre. And I think no one should perfect any genre because there's a lot of things to do in a genre. And if you perfect something, then you can't do anything further and you can't progress. So never look for perfection in anything art related, and that's how you're going to progress your style, your mixing, your music, your everything in life. Just don't look for perfection and just keep doing things, keep evolving, keep doing things differently, and you're going to succeed in a lot of ways. And I think you're going to make even better music than me, and I'm pretty sure you maybe do even at this point. So yeah, I'm not any professional or any good artist to be learning from, but I wanted to share my melodic dubstep process and journey and everything, and also to make you understand that there's not one single way to do this kind of genre, and there are a lot of ways to do this kind of genre, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the point of this video. So thank you for being here with me, and if you stick through the end of the video, I really, really, really thank you, and I'm really thankful to you for all the support that you've given me in this video and maybe on my music as well. And if you want to learn more with other genres that I've done in the past, and you want to learn anything, just ask me on Discord or Instagram or on YouTube. Comment down below, and please like the video if you liked it, and if you learned something new from this video with the genre and techniques and all the yapping that I did. But yeah, see you in the next video or a song. I don't know what I'm gonna do next, but yeah, bye bye, ta ta, and take care. Have a great day and have a great time.